Personally, I think if you play Steve McQueen as the King of Cool, of all the characters you played, who's the coolest? By far, without a doubt, Snake Plissken. No question. Non peril. Don't come any cooler than him. Hi, I'm Kurt Russell, and Esquire has asked me to explain some things. I don't feel like I have to do that, but I will do that. So let's dive in, shall we? Let's see, Esquire. You've been with Goldie Hawn for 40 years. What's the secret to a long-lasting relationship? You get with Goldie Hawn, you got a good chance. If you're lucky enough to get with Goldie Hawn, it's just however long she can put up with you. I mean, I'm looking at these pictures of her. Boy, talk about the whole package, huh? Goldie's what you think she is. Women adore Goldie. Men love Goldie. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. Goldie Hawn had a blast rewatching Over with Kurt Russell. Yeah. So Goldie and I, this is maybe 8-10 years ago, we were, lying in bed, kind of having a good time, and we just couldn't stop watching it. It's one of those, we looked at each other and we said, that's a funny movie. Any grooming tips for achieving your legendary mustache? It's funny, I let my mustache grow to try to find what I wanted to do with Wyatt Earp. There was a picture that I had of him where I had the exact same mustache, but the director at the time, he was being incredibly accurate to certain things. He said, well, that's not the way he wore his mustache at that time. And I'm actually glad I went with the mustache that he wanted me to go with. But the other mustache, I looked like him. I don't know whether it was the right or wrong thing to do in that regard. This other one looks like I'm getting ready to do Hateful Eight. And I was playing with different looks, and at this point here, it was not a choice I made, but it was something I was having to, work through. Personally, I think if you play Steve McQueen as the King of Cool, of all the characters you played, who's the coolest? By far, without a doubt, Snake Plissken. No question. Non peril. Don't come any cooler than him. It's been 30 years since the making of Tombstone. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of that project? I think I'm looking at this picture, I think of Billy Paxton. What a terrific guy. And Sam, who I lovingly referred to as Eeyore. And then I had a great relationship with Val. We had a special relationship. We just clicked. There were a great group of actors, people. And Sunday, my horse Sunday, had the best horse you could possibly have. It's a great horse. I can just remember when we finished, all I wanted to do was get on that horse. And in those days, they were always very careful with, horses and where they were going. And I just turned to the wrangler and I said, nobody can catch me on this thing, so don't bother trying. And I said, I'm going for a ride. And he said, got it. I just took off and spent about an hour with Sunday, and it was a release. In Hateful Eight, Kurt Russell accidentally smashed a one-of-a-kind 145-year-old guitar that was on loan from the Martin Guitar Museum. I love how these stories evolve. Jennifer had a number of guitars to work on this song that she was going to sing. The one particular guitar that she liked, I guess, was this Martin. Nobody ever said it was 145 years old. At the time, it was a Martin. And I remember somebody at the thing saying, I think it's worth about $15,000. I said, oh, that's cool. Then comes the day to shoot it. I knew that she'd been working on this one guitar, and because I've done 1,000 shows, and I couldn't imagine they would even be using the one guitar that she was going to be taking home. Not that it was a priceless Martin guitar, because it wasn't. Nobody said that. Nobody made that claim. But when we did the take, you can even see it, I kind of give it an extra beat. And nothing, so I go ahead and smash the guitar. I can tell when I grab her and sit her down, I can tell she's not happy about this. It's like, something's wrong. So as soon as it's over, I said, tell me that's still not the guitar you've been practicing with. And she went, I only felt bad about that. I gave a shit about the guitar. Suddenly, now, within a week, the guitar's worth $25,000. At the end of the show, it's worth $45,000. I promise you, in 10 years, it'll be older than Martin existed. I just love how that these urban legends grow. So far from me, I knew it was 145 years old. I know it's actually more than that. It's 182 years old, and it's worth $700 million. What drew you to starring in Monarch, A Legacy of Monsters? It was an opportunity to work with Wyatt and play the same person. We'd been offered some things over the years, father and son, but as it turns out, somebody told us it had never been done, two known actors, father and son, playing the same character. That was kind of interesting to us and challenging, and we said, well, okay, that was a casting idea. Once you take the casting idea and you put it into action, the execution of what's going to take place with that character then becomes the question of the day. And so we went to work with the writers and the producers about the character itself and how it would unfold during the 10 episodes. studios, and that's how we got going. Did you ever give your son Wyatt any advice before he began his acting career? No, not really. Wyatt's world was like mine. My world was baseball. I started at a very young age in the world of show business, but it was baseball. Playing professional baseball was overall where I learned more about who I was, what I wanted to do. And I think that's probably very true for Wyatt. The world of hockey was what formed his outlook on life. Therefore, any conversations we would have had about the business are kind of based in looking at it from the point of view of a player. When it comes to Quentin Tarantino, great, phenomenal. He's like a blast. Tremendous filmmaker, tremendous writer, tremendous movie maker. Great hang. I mean, world-class, awesome hang. And he wanted me to come over to his house to read Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And as soon as I got about 30 pages in, I knew why, because he wanted me to read it while I was in the belly of the beast. I must say, when I read the script, I said, Quentin, I don't know if there's anybody alive today that can appreciate this more than me. He said, that's why I wanted you to come here and read it. He said, now here's the last 20 pages. and it was just that was like the cherry on top. DiCaprio came over, and I think Brad Pitt, and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. He said, all right, I gotta go home. And I got up and he said, oh, by the way, I want you to play Randy. And I said, Randy? Who's Randy? And he said, Randy, the stunt coordinator. I said, oh, I didn't even notice him. I said, I don't know, but I'll be there. And we had a blast for a couple of days, just doing that. It was great. It was, I love that movie. Have you ever used this bathroom? I've been in that bathroom, but I believe it's in Hawaii. Somebody told me about it. We happened to be there on vacation, and we went into, and it's a very sweet dedication to Big Trouble in Little China. Look, John was an extremely important person in my life. He put me in things that nobody else would have. I love his sense of humor. I love his sense of adventure. I can just think of the many, many times we'd just be sitting next to each other. And we're both conversationalists, but we're not overly social. We'd say 10 words to each other over a 3-hour period. That way we were good. It was like, hey man, see you next time. He's a great guy. Do you have your opinions on UFOs changed since 1997, or haven't they? No, I've always assumed, look at the odds on objects that fly that we don't make are very low, I would say. But anyway, this one time I was landing in Phoenix, Sky Harbor. I was taking Oliver to see a girlfriend of his, dropping him off. And he said, hey, Pa, are we okay here? What are those lights? And I said to the tower, I said, are you guys painting anything above the airport? And he said, no, like, what are you seeing? I said, well, we've got 5 or 6 lights. I can't remember exactly, but they were dead in line. And they said, no, we're not showing anything. You want to declare. And I said, well, yeah, you got 5 lights or 6 lights, appear to be moving in absolute unison. And that's what I'm saying. And here, to me, was the weird part. Maybe 10 years later, 8 years later, Goldie's watching this show on TV, and it's on UFOs. And I'm looking at it, now seeing these lights, and the guy's talking. I said, that's Phoenix. And she said, yeah, it's Phoenix. I said, yeah, that's the night I landed with, I was Oliver. It all came back to me. And I realized I had never thought of it. And Oliver and I never talked about it, never mentioned it to each other until I saw it on television. I said, that's what's weird. That's like Men in Black stuff. Poof. Did nothing. And so that was weird. You got a 10-year movie contract at Disney. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of those years is him. He was just very creative and inventor, unassuming. He turned out to be very important to me, not just because I worked there, but because of some of the things that I learned from him and that he taught me without me knowing that he was teaching me. I had no idea at the time that as a 13-year-old kid, I was learning some things that I would apply in my life much later on. I was an actor, but I was going to play baseball, and that's what I was working on. He understood the seriousness of that. It wasn't, but he said, just in case, he said, I think you might find some things in this business that you can really look at seriously as something you might want to do. I have some wonderful stories about him. Really cool guy. You played baseball in the minor leagues. Do you still like to throw a ball? Wish I could throw a ball. Rotator cuffs at that time were not something anybody even knew what it was. We used to just call it throwing your arm out, right? I blew his arm out. A lot of guys blew their arm out. What they did was they tore their rotator cuff. And in those days, there was no operation for it. That was it. You were done. So I don't throw a ball anymore. If I do, I throw left-handed. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy your latest issue of Esquire.